Associates. And this is my wife. No. Tiffany is Tiffany's my right hand, and she's been here quite a few times. Well, she's going to hand out some.
Oh, here's the check.
Jesse actually cooked for y'all last time, so I'm sure she was very happy to spread a little bit of the work around this time. But I'm glad everyone enjoyed themselves. It was very positive comments. And feel free to leave any comments when you go about something you might want to see on the menu for the next event. Should you be coming back to
We will.
to it? Okay.
Thank you.
This is the conference worksheet for our
Okay, these are the all of our workshops and trainings and things like that. Please hand those out. And what else?
These are just kind of like our brochures to go in the binders.
These are brochures that go inside the binders. See how well I do?
Yeah.
She has you well trained, John.
Like I said on there. Okay. Anyway, glad to be here and tell you a little about myself. I just celebrated last January 1st. I celebrated 30 years of sobriety. I was never big on Christmas, so I went to Cairo to spend Christmas, and then New Year's was my birthday and my AA birthday, and I went to the Red Sea and had a ball. And was taking that little boy and taking care of him. But anyway, my addiction, every time I think I got one of the addictions under control, another one pops. I go to every 12-step group there is, I think, as far as addictions. I started a new program, Sex Without Partners. And I've been making coffee there for 21 years, and nobody's ever showed up. But I'm there for all of you if you finally show up. But the only one I don't go to, of course, is Neurotics Anonymous, because they don't tell me where they meet. It's just been it's been so damn much fun to be sober, and my history goes for 8 drunk driving charges. I cannot go into Canada. I've been banned. I've got busted for coke, 3 suicide attempts. My first treatment center was in aversion treatment in 1972 in a straitjacket, and I was there for 2 weeks, and then back out on the marijuana maintenance program. And then I've been in treatment 4 more times since then. And I tell everybody I've got a PhD with a BA with a psychologically handicapped drunk with a bad attitude. And that's my whole experience is what I have to share with you. When I got sober, the last time, which I think is always the best treatment center in the world, the last one you're in, and I started out in about. I was volunteering in '83. Worked for a lady in an outpatient. Got my. We had in Idaho. We had a DUI evaluation. I got went into that, and then I got my all the other stuff I got involved in. I got my CADC and all that. But what happened was almost 22 years ago, the state of Idaho wanted someone to run their doctor's program, and they wanted a doctor, and it was for the recovering doctors. And I'd gone through treatment with a doctor, Dick Gerber, who was a good friend of mine in treatment, and he said, I'd like you to apply for this, because he was running the volunteer group. And volunteers, we'd had 8 doctors kill themselves in Oregon, and these programs started up in Florida and all over. The people in Florida that started the program down there, they came up and helped us get ours started in '86. And I took over in '92, but it was the power of God is amazing in this program. They wanted a doctor, but they couldn't afford it. And so they asked me to apply, and I did. And I thought, pass that off, and I'll go back to outpatient. And they said, you've got the job. And in that interview, I found out how much power God has compared to 12 guys sitting around that table. All the power was in God's hand. And I was privileged to have this job, be the coordinator for the Physicians Recovery Network. Then the nurses wanted us. So my company, I started my own company. I drove around town. I'd gone broke in 1980, and very suicidal, and finally came back. And so when I started Southworth Associates, I was able to start the doctor's program, then the nurses program, then the dentists, then the pharmacists, and the veterinarians, attorneys, and judges, and it's our basis for our company. We have 2 offices in Boise. One of them is for people that have licenses, and the one is the one that don't have licenses. And then we have another office in Portland where Jessica is, and she does most of the work with you folks on our trainings and the conferences. I own Moment of Change with Foundation, and then Morris and I own the 3 we do here. And then Ken Seeley and Eric and I do the trainings. We're doing probably 10 a year now. Foundations have us with 4 of them, and so we're very busy on training also. We've had a great following. My biggest job, number 1, is consulting, and we consult all over the world with different treatment centers. The past 8 weeks I've been in Thailand twice, Tokyo once, London once, and St. Kitts and Istanbul. Neat story. Did an intervention on a gentleman in Istanbul. If you've ever been there, out on the Bosphorus is the water, and the ships are going into. I mean, I like a little boy. They came over to the Radisson, picked me up in their boat, brought me across. There's only 500 homes on the Bosphorus, very wealthy families, and they own the shipping line. And he went to visit Leslie for a while at Betty Ford, and that was a year ago. And the other day, I got a phone call. He said, I'd like you to be my best man at my wedding. And in Turkey, you have to have a witness, which is the best man. I said, I'd be honored. And so I started talking to him, and I said, where are we going to have the wedding? And he said, my dad wants to have it at the place that you did the intervention on me, on the Bosphorus, right on the water. Oh, man. Yeah, well, I'll be there. I have to swim. So I went over for that. So our company, we changed our name of our company to Southworth International, is our S Corporation, the umbrella, and then the accountants and the attorneys divided everything else that I own as far as LLCs, and then spread that around for liability and tax reasons, which I have nothing to do with. Tiffany runs that. And then, so anyway, the thing about it, if you can imagine what we've got there is 21 years of research in those files. China's looking at them, the University of Florida's looking at them. I mean, what we have is documentation, and Greg Skipper's got a wonderful promises. He's got some wonderful data, and I was able to be part of that because I've been on the board for the Federation of State Physicians Programs through the American Medical Association. I'm very active with them. I'm on the membership, or on the planning committee for our annual meeting, and a lot of you people have had people there as our guest speakers, and been very active with it. But what it came up for Southworth Associates was all this data and information. So if we could pass these out, here's a wonderful recipe for chocolate chip cookies. And I'd like to get those passed out. If you look at those wonderful chocolate chip cookies, all this data that we got, I've got all of Greg's information. And here we are. I want to brag about the pharmacists. It's only 3 years, so as soon as I brag about it, you know, one pharmacist is going to be dropping a pill someplace in Boise. But we've had no relapse. And I just keep going, you guys. But we had an audit by Dr. Hankus, who lives here in Florida, and our recovery rate, even without the licenses, was 76%. Wow. And I thought, wow, you know, and we've got up to 96% with some of the docs too now, and the ones we can't get up very high are the nurses. What's the reason? Anybody got an idea why we can't get working too much?
Lack of monitoring.
Money.
Money was saying, it's like flight attendants and pilots.
Exactly. Pilots have the best, doctors have the best, nurses. Let me tell you what happens when I get a nurse. Her husband's laying on the couch and been there for 4 years waiting for a painting job, and they just lost their job and Cobra's run out. That's the sad, because placing a nurse is really difficult, and I work so hard at it. A lot of you people have been so good to me to allow me to bring some of the nurses in. They don't get that long term. As we look at this recipe for recovery, and this recipe for muffin, if you take all these ingredients, every one of them, and then put them in the oven long enough, which is long term, okay, you will get chocolate chip cookies. Leave an ingredient out, you're not going to have it. Turn the page over. Here's the recipe that the Federation of State Physicians Health Program and the airlines, which is Delta, Air New Zealand, United, we have all these wonderful ingredients. We now have the ingredients to use with the person that doesn't have a license. The easiest job I have as far as helping people into recovery is these wonderful guns that they hand me from the boards to hold at somebody's head. It's called accountability. What do? We do the intervention. We get the doc into we give them a page, about 10 or 12 places to go. They get a good evaluation, be 3 to 5 days, and then they follow the recommendations or they don't practice medicine, okay? Pretty simple. Now, with my grandiosity, I took this recipe out here and I know everything. I know how to fix all you normal people that don't have licenses. So I took that same recipe and ran around there and just bragging about 90 days of the secret, 90 days of the secret. Well, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was that gun. It was that accountability. So as my staff did an intervention on me in 2012, I think it was. They told me I decided to start doing more intense monitoring. And we've got a good monitoring program. That's what Tiffany does, and I've got a lot of people in there that do this. And I wasn't getting the results I wanted, and I couldn't figure it out. Where do you think the missing link was as far as what could I do to fill that hole where I didn't have the board with a gun? Family. So, talking to a family is like talking to the addict. The first thing to go with a family and the addict is their hearing. They don't hear anything. Number 2 is logic. Number 3, common sense. You are now working with a bunch of people that's much sicker than the patient, okay? For us to take a leper out of the leper colony, put him in treatment, and put him back in the leper colony and say, oh, by the way, don't let him catch leprosy, is insane. So what we did is they stopped me from selling the level 2. The level 1 is we take your discharge summary, and you need an outside third party, or when you do your outcome studies, they're not going to be valid, okay? You've got to have that, whoever it is, and we do the discharge summary at the UAs, AAs, psychiatry, whatever you need to do, and that's level 1. Adding on level 2 is the family component. So I got David Barthwell, Dr. Barthwell's son, who's a Yale graduate, techie, and I had him help us with our staff, and Caroline Smith from Pine Grove, and we developed the family program. What I really done is been able to make the families into the boards of medicine, or the FAA, whatever you want. So when I do the intervention, or talk to the families, I let them know you are going to be fired. The only thing you're going to be doing is being monitored. What we do is they have assignments. It's all goes through our computers. They have assignments. They've got to go to, we monitor their Al-Anon, we monitor their CODA, we monitor everything that they've got, okay? And then they have assignments. And all of them that agree, they sign the contract, including Aunt Minnie. And guess what? If Aunt Minnie isn't doing her job, the rest of the family, it's their job is to get a hold of them and hold her accountable. What is the secret? Accountability, accountability. And you've got to look, like Boris said, we go for 5 years. Why? Because that's what we got out of the Federation of State Physicians Health Program. And Dr. Barthwell came to us and said, look, it's the same as cancer. Get that 5-year program going. That's why I shared that with you yesterday. So for us, it was to start placing this. We've got it. It's there. Does it work? Yeah. How does it work? Real well. And it's time, it's consuming. Our staff, Megan runs that department, and she's on the phone all the time. Most of the time, like the people, we've got one kid in London, and you know Mark, he's his counselor, and we work together on it by text, and we handle all of his money. Very wealthy, one of probably the richest family in Germany that live in London. We handle all the money, and this kid can't do this or this or this or this without going through us. If you get the families out of the way, it stops that damn tennis match, because I need this, I need that. That codependency. I got a phone call last night. I've got a family in New York, very, very wealthy. And we've got the kid at Pine Grove, and he wants to do this, and he wants to do that. And I said, and my friend called, who's a relative of theirs, and said, you've got to get him off that telephone. And I said, no, mother can't answer the damn phone. The kid's got a disease too, and so she's got to take her responsibility. And I will not work with him unless we get mom off the phone, because she's so codependent, okay? So we got that stopped. This thing is starting to work. So the family program is really exciting for us. And I spent a lot of money on it, a lot of time, and I thank my staff for stopping me. And it was also my attorney that stopped me too. He said, you're not producing what we really need. And he was in recovery. Well, I tipped him 20 years ago. So we're able to put that together. The consulting, like I said, is the biggest. The monitoring we have for all those. We have the monitoring now for the patient without the license, and we put on trainings. I'm on the board of trustees with these folks from London. I'm still on the board with the docs, and I'm very active in it. So and I love interventions. And for all of you in this room, if you need an intervention for you, your loved ones, or your people that work I'll do it for nothing. Okay, you know that's just my gift back to you people. In Boise Valley, where I was a coke addict and a dealer, I do all 3 interventions there too. So that's what I like to do, is try to give back as much as I can. So the thing for me is how much data we have and being able to make this recipe. And what I love about this recipe, if you use all the ingredients, it works. Now, I do know that some of the people don't have enough money to put all those ingredients in, okay? But we can still make it work, and that's through the seamless continuum of care. I think the most exciting thing for me is when I can put a jigsaw puzzle together. Let's take a nurse, for instance, and she has no money, and be able to put that seamless continuum of care and still have the board of nursing pay for the monitoring and put it together. Yes, you can go over here for a bit, and we got to move over here, and we move over there, as long as we have somebody holding her accountable. That's the whole key. And it's the same with the families that you're working with. We've got to hold them accountable. Accountable. I don't know anything that works better. And after 5 years, I think you're going to be okay. I think you're going to be okay. There's a lot of people in here with 5 years or more, and I think as you look back, the first 5 years, you know, that's a struggle. There's just no doubt about it. So Tiffany does a lot of our training. If any of you want to see any of this monitoring, either level 1 or level 2, Pine Grove was the first person, I believe, to sign up with it. What we did for them is we made it part of their treatment. Let's say it was $23,000 for treatment for 90 days. They just added the $2,000 for the monitoring and threw it in there. So the Pine Grove for theirs is, oh, by the way, Mrs. Jones, for your son, your loved one, it'd be 15 months for $23,000. It's part of it. Then when they, Mom, I don't want to do that. We paid for it, you little son of a gun. You are going to be doing it. You got to hold them accountable. That's why the idea behind me was to get the treatment center to make it part of the package. It's part of it's the longest part of the recovery. How much is treatment in a lifetime? If lifetime is you're born over here and you die over here, treatment's this much, and treatment goes on. In my recovery, I've had a stroke, 4 seizures, heart attack, 5 angiograms, an angioplasty with a stent, 8 bypasses, bone marrow for leukemia, 2 cataracts removed, 2 hernia operations, 3 bouts of pneumonia where I almost died. And I can tell you